Welcome. We're here in beautiful Greenville, South Carolina on this wonderful November day. It's like 80 degrees, but that's okay. Let's go inside and check out Retro Toy Con. Welcome to Retro Toy Con again. I'm here with everybody's favorite Pixel Dan, the godfather of action figure
Zardan today.
Zardan. He wasn't always like this.
No.
It's like a pop and swap head situation.
You know what? I've never done a cosplay thing ever before. This is literally the first time I've ever done this at a show. But like,
I think it worked for you. I think it's the green pants.
It's the green pants, right?
That's what does it.
Yeah.
So I've got to ask you, hey, is it weird being on this side of the conversation versus my side of the conversation?
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah?
Sometimes. Usually I'm the one asking the questions. Yeah.
Really cool. Well, first off, thank you for doing this.
Of course.
Second,
Of course.
how's the reception been at the show today?
Oh, it's been awesome. This is one of my favorite conventions actually that I come to.
Nice.
I've been here 3 times, so like about every other year. I usually like skip a year and come back. But the reception here is always amazing, and like, you know, it's great because I bring the book and some other swag, but like the book has been like selling really good today and everything. Awesome. So it always makes me feel like a proud parent, you know, that so many people want this thing that I created, you know.
Well, and for those who live on a different planet and don't know what your book is, give them like a rundown.
You got it, man. So this is the Toys of He-Man and the Masters of the Universe. It's basically a compendium guide to the Masters of the Universe toy lines from 1982 through 2019. So it's got all the way up through the Masters of the Universe Classics line, covers vehicles, play sets, and figures. And it was a total passion project.
Well, that's what I was going to say. One can only assume that you were a big He-Man kid.
Oh,
right?
for sure. It was always my number one as a kid and followed me into adulthood as a collector.
Perfect.
So
what's your number 2?
Ninja Turtles.
Okay,
Definitely Ninja Turtles.
Turtles is my number 1.
Nice.
So
nice.
With your number 1 and my number 1 coming together right now,
oh,
it's a big time in the
isn't that
toy
pretty
universe,
crazy?
right?
Not something I ever thought I'd see. Even though Turtles like seems to cross over with everything,
Perfectly.
but like, yeah, man, seeing my 2 favorite toy lines mashing together is pretty fun.
Right?
It's fun, yeah.
I absolutely love
That's
it.
what toys are about, right? Fun.
For
So
sure.
yeah.
So we're at a Retro Toy Con. What are
Yes.
you looking for here, Dan?
So man, I have been on this kick this year of Ninja Force G.I. Joe figures, which is sort of something that like started out of like I've always been attracted to like the weird brightly colored G.I. Joe figures, which is so funny because that makes me an outlier, and I understand that.
You and far between.
I understand that. But like, you know, I didn't have a lot of G.I. Joes as a kid.
Same.
But the few that I had, I got in like the mid 90s, so they were that era of G.I. Joe. So that's where my nostalgia lies. And I've always mainly focused on like He-Man and Turtles, but I've dabbled in other things here and there.
Right.
And when I do a toy hunting series on my channel.
Yep.
So I was like, I think it'll be a lot of fun if I like try to track down some of these like Ninja Force figures because I think they're cool. My audience just like, they just basically started egging me on. You know what I mean? So it just became this thing, and that's why I like dressed up like this for Halloween.
You
and like
this when you go toy hunting.
I should, right? I did today. So yeah, it's been a lot of fun. And it's just been one of those like fun things I'm sharing with my community, which makes it like special, like extra special. You know what I mean? Because now I'll have these figures in my collection, but like I'll always remember that time me and the audience were being weird about neon ninjas, you know? So
which is the worst ninja costume.
I know, right? It's not very sneaky, is it? Yeah.
So as I'm looking at your table, I'm going down. I know you as Pixel Dan, the toy guy, unboxing.
Yeah.
It's comparison time, and then I look and I see wrestling things over here and your own figure. My first question is, why wrestling? And the second part of that is, what's it feel like to be made in plastic form?
Man, it's kind of indescribable. It's crazy. So the wrestling thing is fun, and it's been kind of fun the last couple of years where people have started realizing that I am involved in independent wrestling, and always have been, really, because independent wrestling, pro wrestling, is another one of my big passions. Always has been. And directly out of high school, I found a local school and I learned how to wrestle because I wanted to be a pro wrestler. Awesome. And then all through my 20s, I was traveling around every weekend. I was booked on a show somewhere, all through Illinois, Indiana. Like I worked a circuit basically, and that was my primary thing at that time.
That's really cool.
So that predates Pixel Dan, right? Now my life kind of shifted directions, right? And like I got married and started having kids, and then this whole Pixel Dan thing took off. So wrestling is still something I love. I don't do it as much as I used to, but I've always still like worked one show a month at like the local company. It's just It's hard to give up something that you love so much, and wrestling's that thing for me. But it's funny because I always kept the two things separate. Pixel Dan was like a different thing than Spencer Powers, and I just never really mixed the two. But guys like Matt Cardona and Brian Myers at the Major Wrestling Figure Podcast, like I really feel like they kind of changed the game as far as like showing their nerd flag, man. They didn't, they really put out there that they were big toy guys, and they became a name in the toy community. I got to know Matt Cardona over the years, even back when he was still Zack Ryder, because he's a toy guy. And we would like chat online about toys, or he would reach out to me and ask me a question about some toys, and we just kind of always stayed in touch. But we always did that thing where we like had a nice little feud going back and forth to each other on Twitter. We would like poke fun at each other. So like an opportunity came up where we could maybe do something in the ring together. And like I asked him, I was like, would you ever be interested in working with me in the ring? And he was like, hell yeah. And I mean, long story short, me and Matt Cardona had a match last year, and it was amazing. Dude is a true professional. We had so much fun. But somehow all of that led to me being a part of their toy line, the Major Bendy's line. I love that. And now I have an action figure. And man,
in the annals of time,
it's a real production toy that people can buy. It blows my mind. And there's a couple crazy things about that to me. Like, for one, wrestling was such a big part of my life before Pixel Dan. I never would have imagined that at this stage in my wrestling career, when I'm basically winding down, that I would have an action figure. But two, who would have thought that Spencer Powers would have a figure before Pixel Dan?
Well, true.
It's like full circle, like my life just like swung back around, and it's so weird.
So that's the next step,
Yeah.
A Pixel Dan
figure, yeah.
Loincloth from Mattel, right?
Gotta need
That's what we're all wanting.
Loincloth and boots, yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So going through wrestling, loving it as a kid, I think most of us in the, mid-30s, mid-40s, had a definite era of wrestling.
Yes.
Who's your hero? Who's your wrestling? I know it's tough to say one, but
it's The Undertaker. It's The Undertaker. I mean, like, The Undertaker is the reason I started watching wrestling anyway.
Right.
Like, I remember, because, like, when I was growing up, I had a neighborhood friend, and, like, he and his family were wrestling fans. So all of my wrestling came through them. Like, I would be over at their house, and I would play wrestling toys, and I would see wrestling on TV. The first time I saw The Undertaker, I was like, who's that?
Right.
And like, that's what really got me into it as a fan. Now, of course, like, I lived through the Attitude Era in the 90s. I was in high school, so I was right there at the height of it. D-Generation X and all of that stuff. So that was huge. But like, yeah, The Undertaker's always been my guy.
Absolutely.
Always. Yeah.
He's one of mine. Him and Sting are like,
like
my top-notch guys.
Yes, I love it.
Well, thank you so much for taking the time.
You got
to
it,
do
man.
This. I appreciate it, and look forward to getting this book and any future projects you have coming out.
I appreciate that, man. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Awesome.
You can't come to a retro toy con and not check out all the toys. Let's take a walk.
Hey everybody, I'm here with Rob Pose from Savage Crucible line. We're here at the RetroCon, as we talked about earlier. So Rob, how's the show been for you?
It's a great show. I love all the vintage toys. It's a very unique place to be at.
You walked around, scoured, looked a little bit?
Yeah. I don't think I've been to a toy show this size that has 2 inbox flags.
Right.
For sale, right? Yeah. Like that's
super rare. Super rare. So how's the reception been here for you guys?
Really good. We're pleasantly surprised. A lot of Kickstarter backers have stopped by. Some new people have stopped by, expressing interest. So yeah, we're pretty happy.
It's a show you see coming through in the future? You make it on your regular circuit?
Yes. Well, we have like one good friend that comes every year, and The guys were nice enough to invite us down for this show. So yeah, it's a great show. It's a great environment. I mean, everybody knows about the toy swaps after hours, things like that. It's intense. So
Very excited about that myself. Now, for those who may not know, give us a 60-second rundown on what Savage Crucible is.
all right, so Savage Crucible is a 6 to 7 inch scale action figure line. It's a new original property, new IP. It is fantasy based. We do license certain characters from the Frazetta family, so we have that sort of licensing coming into it. But it's a lot of H.P. Lovecraft, a lot of Robert Howard influence. Certainly, obviously, that influenced Motu, and Motu influences us. So yeah, there's a lot of that going on in there.
Perfect. Yeah, I backed the Kickstarter myself. Huge fan of what you guys are doing. Love the line. Really excited to get them in hand.
I appreciate it.
Now, before I let you go, I've got to ask you, what are you looking for here at this show? Besides new customers, what are you looking for?
All right, so the only things that I've picked up so far, I picked up a Cobra Commander, the 06 number, but not the Regal one because I already had that one. So I'm trying to complete my classifieds line.
Nice.
And then I've been shopping for a friend of mine. His kid's really into the Studio Series Transformers, so I've been picking those up as well.
Convention is amazing. Today was wonderful. We had so many people here. There was a line outside this morning. Preview night yesterday was great. We are doing good. Right now it's kind of slowing down a little bit, which is good because we've been busy, but we are here tomorrow as well. It's been very, very good.
Being the action figure authority, which is basically how you grade figures and any other pieces that people send in to you. Can you give me a little bit about your company and how it works?
Yeah, so Action Figure AFA was first AFA started in 2001. We have AFA for action figures, we have VGA for video games, DCA for diecast, and CDA for collectible dolls, which they are kind of getting back on the market out there with the new Barbie movie. Has been in business. We are considered the lead into authentication and grading. We manufacture all our cases in-house. Customers can submit to us all the time via email or some drop-offs or at the convention. We have big team, mini graders. We manufacture the cases as I sell. We do everything in-house. It's all made by AFA. So it's been very good. I've been with the company for 10 years, so I can tell you it's been pretty good.
Oh, all right. So what would be the website for people to get a hold of?
So CGA Grading is our main website. You can put it, you'll find it. If you type in AFA Grading, you'll find it. CGA Grading is the parent company, collectible grading authority that has all the 4 branches. You go on the website. We do have a new website now. We are still making updates on it. You can submit online. We are still trying to, actually, we will release population reports really soon because I know a lot of people are waiting for those. There's a simple submission form. It gives you a shipping address. You complete the form, you print the submission, you include it in the package with your items, and you just ship it to us.
I grew up, of course, watching X-Men. As I just told you, I love the Wildcats cartoon and where you played Zealot.
I did play Zealot, yes.
How did voice acting come about for you?
You know, I'm from Winnipeg, Manitoba, where I worked with the Winnipeg Film Group, which is still running strong. And I worked behind the scenes, but I'm a mimic and I could do lots of different voices for people. And so the studio engineers came to know me as a good voice. So when people would come into town looking for people to voice commercials, I was brought in and I did a ton of commercials in Winnipeg before I moved to Toronto, which is where I met the casting directors for Wildcats and X-Men and a few other series that I did.
Which one came first, X-Men or was it the Wildcats shows?
They were recording concurrent. I don't know which one came out first. I was recording Wildcats sessions over the course of like 6 or 8 months. And in the middle of it, I did an X-Men's episode.
That is so much fun.
Yeah. Can I tell you about the audition?
I would love that.
So, to play the role of Zealot, I was brought in 3 times to audition. And the director clearly, like, they would get me to stand in front of a microphone, and the line that I had to say, there were 2 lines, actually, I'm just remembering. That's enough, Grifter. And let's kill it. And then I'd wait, and they go, okay, you can go home. And I'd go home, and a week later, I'd come back and stand in front of a microphone with more people in the other room. That's enough, Grifter. Let's kill it. And then the 3rd time they brought me in, it was even more like, that's enough, Grifter. And I could see the relief on everyone's faces that I had finally kind of hit the angry notes, and I was like, okay. So that's how I got the role.
That is awesome. We were fortunate to speak with Eric and Julia LeWalt while they were promoting their new book, and also Mark Edens about being showrunners and writers for the beloved 90s X-Men cartoon.
The writer's room was basically my dining room table and then my office once we had a full office. And no, people didn't punch up each other's scripts. It's just like each writer that has a credit on each episode, he or she sat down and wrote that like writing a movie. And I worked with them throughout, from the very first to the script was over. And took all the notes from, say, censors and from Marvel and the plots, and everybody had an interest in the story. I would try to integrate those into the writer's script to protect the writer from having to use them, talk to other people out of it. But we didn't really have a writer's room like the American.
And correct that he said, well, then I got an office and I worked in the office. That was a home office.
It's a home office, yeah. It was not a Fox office.
No, it was a home office at our home. But it wasn't just a step up and dining room table.
Yeah.
It was that. But it was using Mark Edens sitting there with 2 weeks to work on. There you go, Mark Edens.
Yeah, we laid out the first 2 seasons. 1 season, and then everybody went on, and they weren't quite sure the show was going to work at all, so they let us all go. And then it became this huge hit, and they hired most of us back. And then Mark and I laid out the 2nd season, and
laid out.
Yeah, the stories, and would then again hand them out to various folks, including Mark's brother Michael, and a lot of East Tennessee boys on that show. So
by dumb luck, you came out here from Tennessee again, man.
Yeah, she got out to Texas, and so it was very much a southeastern kind of.
Knowing that y'all are all part of the X-Men family, and you were on this show for so long, you have to have created a favorite character of your own. Who did you like the best in the shows? Like, did you have a preference for Cyclops, or even Mr. Sinister, maybe for season 2? I don't know. Just what was your favorite aspect that came out of the show?
I think, putting my own history in this, I didn't get to write much at all for him as a character, but oh my God, John Colicos, who was the voice of our Apocalypse, his voice as Apocalypse was just spectacular. And the insider tidbit here that I didn't know until sadly after he passed in the late 2010s, he appeared in Star Trek the original series as the very first Klingon to appear on screen. And I am a huge Star Trek geek nerd girl, and I didn't make a connection. And I'm always regretting the fact that I didn't. And they were recording in Canada. We never met any of the voice talent face to face until about 5 years ago. So the fact that I didn't get a chance to meet John Colicos, who was our Apocalypse, and who was the very first Klingon, that is my big regret. But that, yeah.
Mark, did you have a favorite character to write for?
Probably Beast, because he's what every writer wants to be. He's smarter than everybody else, and he can beat us with.
Well, I empathized with Professor Xavier. There's nothing, he's not that popular, but he had to with this group of people, 20 different people wrote the show, and I was responsible for making all 20 of them kind of fit in with each other. And so I felt very much like the father, like Professor X is holding the X-Men together. But he's not, most fans don't pick him as a favorite, but I felt close to them.
I know y'all had to be comic kids too, right?
No,
Really? Really? Okay.
The artists on the show are all 30-year crazed comic geeks. We were not. We were more movie people, like heroic movie people. But
Westerns and war movies, adventure movies.
Well, then, what kind of research did y'all do for them?
real quick research. Because I got the call on a Sunday night to meet all the Marvel people and Stan Lee and everybody the next morning and explain to them how I was going to adapt their X-Men comic book to the TV show. And I said, that's a Marvel book, right? And I just had to shut up and listen to that meeting. Yeah, there was a mixture of people that were new to the X-Men. There's some good, there was no internet, but there was some good reference books about the history of Marvel characters. I don't get too real fast.
All right, guys. Well, that's a wrap for us here at Retro Toy Con. We came, we saw, we spent some money, we bought some toys. It was a blast. I highly encourage all of you to check this out. It happens around mid-November every year, right here in Greenville, South Carolina. Again, Retro Toy Con. Make it a go-to destination, a go-to con for you. Thanks, guys.